It's Monday night. I'm Dom Aldworth, and this is The Sports Bar.
He's done it! The greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club. European champions. They've beaten Bayern in their own backyard. Tuilagi through the first two, through three. And England are going to score again. No one will catch Ashton. It's magnificent. There's no other word.
Comes Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt storming through. He takes it again. Blake gets the silver. 9.64. Oh, he's retained his title in the most emphatic way.
You tune into Talk Radio Europe. It's extra time on a Monday night with me, Dom Aldworth, Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley, and of course you out there on the airwaves. Coming up over the next hour, there's a hand grenade in the Stadium of Light as Paolo Di Canio begins his first day as manager of Sunderland. Andy Murray moves up to number 2 in the world rankings with victory over David Ferrer at the Miami Masters. And Champions League quarterfinals this week. We're going to be previewing all the action coming up. Come on, Malaga. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio this evening. Great to have you on board yet again.
Good evening.
Oh,
Gotta love this music, eh, to bring you in. I know you like your Stone Roses there, Rich.
yeah, classic track, Dom.
Welcome to Talk Radio Europe and the Monday. A bit of extra time, extra sport on a Monday evening. Thanks for tuning in wherever you might be on your way home from work on the internet. I hope you all had a very good Easter weekend. Do you guys have a good Easter weekend?
I haven't stopped watching television. I watch the tennis. I've been watching football. My eyes are going in the back of my head at the moment.
Gareth Bale, another cracking goal. Fantastic stuff by Andy Murray. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. And Rich, you've got a bit of a strange one. You walked into the studio, it's still kind of bizarre. Do you want to talk about it on here?
Well, I
didn't actually...
I went to a gig on Saturday night and got absolutely steamroller drunk.
I haven't seen you drunk before, actually.
Sorry? Yes, you have. You're lying. And anyway, then I had to go to a lunch party, okay, with this terrible hangover. I just felt absolutely terrible. And really just sort of suffered the whole way through it. And then I had a kind of like very unusual telephone call and request last night.
And what might that be?
Well, a friend of mine...
It wasn't a woman asking you out on a date, because that would be a very unusual request, wouldn't it? But
no, a friend of mine who I was at film school with, he's he's a guy, a chap called Dots Vadera, and unfortunately he died. And one of his last requests was that I accompany his ashes to India, and with 2 other people who I was at film school with, we sprinkle his ashes in the Ganges at Benares.
At Benares?
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw The Good Doctor?
About 19 years ago or so.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken occasionally on the telephone, sort of. But, yeah.
So when's the trip planned? During the IPL, that would be a good time, wouldn't it?
Well, it would.
Huh?
Well, it kind of like, it's taken me by surprise, really, this whole thing. So I'm sort of just kind of like weighing it up and thinking when would be the best time to go.
Well, the IPL starts on, I think, Wednesday. So check out the fixture list. See when the semi-finals and the finals are, and go out during there. Sprinkle the ashes and straight over to Mumbai and watch a little bit of cricket.
Well, I was also trying to think, well, maybe, sort of it's halfway to Australia, Dominic. And of course,
and your brother lives there, doesn't he?
Yeah. And my cousins and everything, and it is kind of like there's a Lions tour coming up.
Of course there is, absolutely,
and the Ashes as well.
Well, there you go. Yeah. There we go. Well, I'll tell you what, we've already got a caller on the line who might want to accompany you to India to sprinkle the ashes. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Yes, Dom, what it is that he's had a flippin' good weekend and he just wants an Indian takeaway. Shut up.
Cheers for that, Gary. Thanks, mate. Absolutely. Mind you, I could do with a nice Indian takeaway. Mind you, I don't need it. That flat belly exercise hasn't been working for the last week or two. But
but I had a good weekend. Yeah, the gig was great as well.
Yeah?
Very good guitarist, a guy called Robert Sass.
Okay. Did you take a girl? A lady?
I was hoping to meet some there, Dominic, but it was bereft of suitable young girls for me.
God, you really
you know how picky I am.
I know you are. And you've been struggling of late. You've tried every single gig you've gone to, trying to find the... we should be broadcasting...
I like them younger, you see, and the older you get...
95 to 78, 4,000.
No, I should add, okay, not as young as some people who have inhabited that chair that you're sitting in. I just like to make that perfectly clear to
Yeah,
everyone.
well, we won't be talking too much about that, will we?
25 plus, if you must know.
Any specifications that you might want from them? Come on, put yourself in a real pickle, yeah? You did it with the Formula One.
What? Well, I think
Shall I change the subject
I think
now?
willing is probably...
He is very attractive if you like men, which I don't. Well, good luck with that, mate. Good luck with that. Maybe you might beat somebody on the aeroplane to India.
Well, who knows, Dominic?
You never know.
On my sacred and holy mission.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, good luck with that. Let us know how you get on, please.
Well,
Guys, Paolo Di Canio. Well, I mean, we're going to talk about what happened on the weekend across Europe and the Premier League. We're going to forecast, well, preview, should I say, the Champions League at the end of the show. But was that a bit of a surprise to you guys? Certainly Martin O'Neill getting sacked. Well, 1 point above the relegation zone. Sunderland. Martin O'Neill hasn't been sacked in 23 years, I think it might be, of him at the top flight as management. And then for Paolo Di Canio to come in, I don't know. But I was certainly surprised with all of that. How about you guys?
well, I mean, you only had to have looked at Martin O'Neill recently, and, you know, there was something just out of sorts about him. He didn't seem that same sort of chirpy, very confident, high-energy character. And I don't know whether, you can look at, I think, Sunderland's malaise, really. I mean, he had an amazing start, if you remember, last season. And it really seemed to go wrong when they lost that, was it the semi-final last year of the FA Cup? And a lot of people were anticipating, that Sunderland were going to win that because they were on this amazing wave of success that he brought them, with some really, really great wins against teams that...
Well, it was halfway through the season, or after the first 10 matches that he came in, wasn't it? And he literally he transformed the team from one Saturday with the same group of players to the next, and went on an unbelievable run where, well, they didn't lose very many, put it that way, and they certainly gathered a lot of points over the first 10 to 15 games that he was at the helm, didn't he?
But Robbie Savage made a very interesting point. He said that he thought the team had stopped playing for him. And
well, listen, I'm looking here. He came in when Sunderland was 16th, and he's left when Sunderland is 16th, so they haven't really gone anywhere. They're where he came in is where he's leaving them. I was surprised, though, to sack someone with half a dozen, 8 games to go. I find incredible.
And to bring in a guy that's got no proven track record at this level as well.
Well, he's done well at Swindon, but not at this
Premier League,
obviously. But the games, he faces Chelsea away, Newcastle home, Everton home, Aston Villa away, Stoke home, Southampton home, Spurs away. All teams that are involved either with Championship, looking for Championship places, or obviously relegation. So.
Just before you comment further on this, just have a quick listen to this, guys, because this is what started work today at the Stadium of Light.
I have a culture. I don't stop my culture. I speak with my body language sometimes. And even if I'm in England, the English people, English referee have to respect me. So I do what I want in the technical area. If I call my players, they can't stop me do this. I call my players. I have to do what I want with my players. If I don't go out from the technical area, no, say to me, call them only with the voice, don't move their arms. That is not acceptable. I will move my body, my arms, my shoulder, my legs. That can't send me off every time. If they want, send me off every game, no problem. I will win this league anyway because my team is a strong team. They're warriors. We play football. Even if they send me off, we win this league, no problem.
Well, that's the rude awakening that awaits the Sunderland players. We'll greet them today, guys. A very colourful Paolo Di Canio.
When you think of the quality of managers in the Premier, I think he's going to take the division by storm. But I think it's going to be outrageous. I really do.
Completely different to this.
If he keeps them up, then I take my hat off to him. But I just can't see it happening. I think they're on a downfall at the moment. And I think also O'Neill bought badly. He bought Adam Johnson, who didn't do a great deal. Stephen Fletcher from your team also has done well. He scored quite a few goals.
Well, so he got injured.
Well, okay, but he's kept them. 11 goals. That's not bad. And Alfred Dendea, who I don't even know, 5 million midfielder they bought from Turkey. And also David Graham, Danny Graham, who they bought from Swansea for $5.5 million. He spent 32 million, and he's done. The last 8 games, I think they've drawn 2 of them, lost 5 of them.
Well, we're just looking at... Sorry, Stu, we just distracted you there because Kenny put a sign up there on the window. He's obviously a Chelsea fan, isn't he, Ken? And he's absolutely delighted with a 1-0 victory today over Man United in the round 6 through to the semi-finals. But we'll obviously be talking about that. He's a happy man there. Sorry, Stu.
But the thing is, Adam Johnson, if you think that... he was playing he was the England right winger or left winger when he was at Man City and I think previously in Middlesbrough, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he was a highly vaunted player, and a lot was expected of him. And you could argue that O'Neill just hasn't brought the best out of him.
I agree with you. Obviously,
but I think he was a good buy, and certainly on paper. And I think Stephen Fletcher has until his injury.
I don't think, sorry, Richard, I don't think so much a good buy on paper. He hasn't performed. He didn't do it at Manchester City, which is why they let him go, and he certainly hasn't done it at Sunderland.
Well, he did at times do it for Man City.
On and off, but he didn't keep a regular place. And they haven't got that many wingers. If he'd performed, he would have got a regular place in that team, because they've got no width.
Do you think maybe that, from Martin O'Neill's point of view, I mean, there was much talk about him maybe being the next Manchester United manager. His wife got particularly ill. I think she was suffering from cancer before he came back into the Sunderland job. And now, when he sees his team performing like this, it's affected his mindset as well. He's thinking, well, not too long ago, I was being thought about of being at the helm of Old Trafford
but Richard,
and big teams, and now underperforming with Sunderland, and it's getting him down as well.
But Richard mentioned before, and I agree with him, I think he looks very dour and very low in his ways. He's not the same guy that I've been watching over the years when he was at Leicester. He's done a lot of good things. He started at Wickham, I think. His managerial career did tremendous there. He just doesn't seem to have that zest that he has. But don't forget, his wife was very ill. Whether it's knocked him backwards, though, thank God, I think she's a lot better now. I still, to sack a man with 7-8 matches to go in the Premier, my God, and take this guy on, this is a big risk, massive.
The thing is, Martin O'Neill's teams, and all the pundits have been saying this. In the past, they've, I suppose, the style of play has been very much based on closing the opposition down, denying them space, and that requires a very high workload from the players. And you just haven't seen that from Sunderland this year.
But he never did it at Celtic. He had a lot of success at Celtic, but I think it was a different league. He played a lot better attacking football, I think, than what he's played in the Premier.
Well, yeah, but it's
a different ball game.
It's the Scottish Premier League.
Yeah,
I mean, it's what do they get? They get sort of 4 tough games a year, if that.
Yes.
Let me start again. Paolo Di Canio as a player didn't have too many problems finding the back of the net, something that Sunderland has suffered from in recent times. And just thinking about that completely different character now coming into the change room and looking after these players. It could
very
actually,
sporting player as well.
Very sorry?
Very sporting player.
Yeah, I mean, but
Paolo Di Canio. I mean, I know that there was the famous incident when he pushed the ref. But, I think most people remember the time where he was through on goal and he could have scored and he didn't because there was an injury. Do you remember that? And he was really...
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and he was really lauded for it. And there's been other examples of that in his career as well.
And a guy that really wears his heart in his sleeve, and maybe this is just what Sunderland need. Forget about the inexperience, but maybe this is what they need.
But you heard that a few people are up in arms, because of his fascist salute that was done many years ago at Lazio.
Yeah.
Did you read all about that?
Yeah,
and also people throwing their season tickets back.
Well,
it happens.
Well,
it happens.
Well, he said, they said, because he was asked about that, and they said, are you a fascist? And he said, no. He said, but I just wanted to salute the ultras who had been singing my name. And he did the salute to them. And, and I think it's, to a certain extent, a mountain is being made out of a molehill here.
Well, I think Miliband's come out, isn't he? He's given back his presidency or whatever he is, vice chairman or something. Obviously, maybe that's just politics and nothing else.
Well, I mean, what else do you expect from somebody like Miliband to have, any opportunity to take the moral high grounds? I mean, God, I've got the motives of politicians. I mean,
I think it's very exciting what he's going to do in that Premier League these last several games. It's going to be It's really going to be something else.
I think he's going to save them. I really do.
But if he does save them, I mean, the guy's going to be an absolute hero there, isn't he?
I hope he saves them before the last game of the season, because he comes to White Hart Lane. I don't want him coming needing 3 points to stay up.
Especially if Gareth Bale's injured as well.
Gareth Bale,
you're in all sorts of trouble.
We're looking after Gareth. If he comes there with 3 points and he needs 3 points, I think that's going to be one hell of a...
You've got to say, though, looking at the relegation battle now, it's really between 4 teams, isn't it? Because, Reading and QPR, I think, are too far behind at this point. They're both 7 points behind Aston Villa, who are third from bottom on 30. And then I think there's about 3 or 4 other clubs on 34, is it, or 30?
Well, you've got Reading on 23, QPR on 23, then you go up 7 points to Villa on 30, Wigan 30, Sunderland 31, Newcastle 33. I wouldn't say the 3 teams above relegation, so Wigan, Sunderland, Newcastle are clear yet either.
Well, I think Newcastle will be okay.
I
tell you, I think that Stoke and Norwich could very easily get dragged into the relegation battle.
Absolutely. Southampton also aren't clear.
I think you only have to look at the way that Southampton played, and I think that at some stage we ought to pay due credit to Southampton as well, because you could argue that they are the unofficial North London Academy.
What's that?
Well, because North London teams get their best players from Southampton. And very soon you're going to be vying for more of their talent. You're going to be looking to get Luke Shaw probably, and also the other fullback who's very good. Is it Nathan Hines? Is it Nathan somebody?
If they're any good, I'm sure Daniel Levy's looking already. So,
Yeah, but you say QPR's too far behind. A win for them tonight takes them only 4 points off. Aston Villa in 18th and Wigan in 17th. Well, Wigan are in action tonight as well. I think.
But playing, Dominic, I mean, I just think that when you look at the teams who are slightly above them, Aston Villa, Wigan, Sunderland, Newcastle, Norwich.
None of them have that Harry Redknapp factor, though.
Well, but they've all got considerably more,
and guys,
more quality within the squad, and I think also, you are looking to catch up an awful lot of points there.
They also don't have the Tony Fernandes factor. I was telling you guys, we hopefully will have Tony Fernandes on, the owner of QPR and the owner of Caterham F1, joining us on the show in the next, hopefully, week to 10 days. And it would be quite nice to see if QPR, and hear a bit of fighting talk as well. If they win today, that is, yeah.
Not many teams go to Fulham and get 3 points. It's a hard place to go, Craven Cottage. They're not so good away from home. They don't travel that well. But at home, they're a force. And also, QPR do get something. On Saturday, they're away to Wigan. And that's going to be one hell of a game, because that's a 6-pointer.
Absolutely.
Because if they get beat today and get beat at Wigan, that's it.
Well, I can see them possibly, because the thing is, I mean, Craven Cottage is quite similar to Loftus Road. It's quite a small, narrow pitch. And, that is, to a certain extent, what suits the QPR style of play. I do think they might suffer at Wigan, though, because Wigan like to play with a lot of width. And, one thing that has been suspect is the QPR defence. And, Martinez likes to play 3 at the back and go for it. And I think they could come unstuck there. But I think they could get a draw tonight at Fulham, to be honest.
The goal they scored, the winning goal that Coney scored, the ex-Spanish La Liga player, tremendous goal for Wigan, with about 10 minutes to go on the weekend. I think they're on fire, Wigan, at the moment. I mean, he does this every year, Martinez. He just comes good with 10 matches to go.
But, I mean, if Sunderland do go down, I mean, Stephen Fletcher will have the distinction of being the only player to have gone down in successive seasons with 3 different clubs.
Oof, goodness me, you don't want that on your CV, do we?
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
My God, that is...
Should we talk about some of the results on the weekend as well? I mean, there was some 6-pointers if you want at the moment, if you're talking about Chelsea and Arsenal and Spurs as well, fighting it out for those Champions League spots. And Arsenal, I mean, we're going to start with Arsenal because I watched that particular game and I thought Arsenal were fantastic, actually, on the weekend. Gervinho was very good. I know he's been out injured of recent times. Santi Cazorla as well was one of the players of the game for me. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch that one.
Fantastic.
4-1 victory against Reading. I know Reading weren't on the top of their game. New manager Nigel Atkins back in the game, but Arsenal really did show, with a few injury problems that they've got, that they do have a squad that's capable of this run-in of securing a Champions League spot.
I thought there was a fluency to Arsenal.
Very much so, wasn't it?
There was the passing and the movement, was exactly what one has, always sort of got from Arsenal in the past, and has been missing for a large part of this season. And I think also Monreal buying Monreal at Christmas has really shored up that left back position.
He's an attacking
Cool. He suffered a terrible injury on the weekend, though, didn't he? Going into defend, I think his knee slid straight into one of the posts in defence there. So I'm not too sure what his availability is like or how that injury is looking.
The problem, I think Reading gave 100%, and I think for a long periods of the game they did very well. They were chasing shadows. In midfield, if Arsenal dominate you in midfield, you just can't do nothing about it. And what Arsenal do well is when they play with poor teams like Reading, they put them away. They don't win like Spurs, and I'm a Spurs man. They don't win 1-0 and 3-2. They actually win 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. They score goals against the poorer teams because they so dominate in midfield. They so dominate.
Spurs, a good victory, 2 cracking goals there for Tongan, and Gareth Bales was a bit special, as usual.
It was tremendous. I mean, the performance wasn't tremendous, but the goals were out of this world. For Tongan's goal also, when Bale chipped it over the
of his feet. Such quick feet for a big fella.
I saw the goal live, and I didn't realise it went in the net.
It was a bit like that Messi goal against AC Milan. You just kind of...
Not dissimilar.
His feet were so incredibly quick. You didn't actually see him strike it.
He is really on fire. Spurs for the first 20 minutes were like Barcelona. It was just wonderful to watch, and then we just lost it. And they came right back in the game, Swansea, really good team, Swansea, and we were lucky to come away with 3 points. We really were.
Chelsea, guys, we were talking about this just before the game with the
Ashley Williams, is one of their sort of... star players in the centre defence.
Star player, but in the latter stages, when Bale had a couple of chances, he just took him out of the game. He couldn't even get near him, Williams. I mean, when he's flying, you give him at like 5 yards in front of him, no one around him, and defenders facing him, he just goes past them. And Williams, as good as he is, just stood there. There was nothing he could do. He really is electrifying, Bale, really. You got, once he's got that free ground in front of him, he's just off, and that's the end of it.
Well, Spurs are one of the teams that could be interested in him at the end of the season.
Interested in who?
Williams.
Yeah, very much so. I'd love to have Williams at Spurs. My God, that would be a wonderful central defender to take away. Absolutely super. Maybe bounce.
They're going to have a real struggle, Swansea.
Well, you'll have plenty of money to buy whoever you want once they sell Gareth Bale in the summer anyway.
So Gareth Bale's not going. We will qualify for the Champions League. Now, don't start with me. It's too early in the show. Leave me till later.
Okay, so just only making a fact.
You say it every week. Bale won't go. He'll stay another year, 23. You know, he's too young. We'll get the same money for him in a year's time in Europe.
Well, how can you... Well, not if he gets injured.
Well, hopefully he won't get injured.
Or he loses form.
Do you really expect him to reproduce the same form next season?
I think he's going to get better. I said before, Ronaldo and Messi, they've peaked. They are just brilliant, the two of them. This guy hasn't peaked yet. He's too young. He will get stronger and better. He's developing all the time. And I think the manager's the guy who's developing him. He really is coming on strong.
I'll tell you what, you've just peaked right now with that, haven't you? Goodness, with that comment. Huh?
I really think he's going to get better and stronger.
Well, I think... Well,
I don't know how much credit you can give the boy Wonder for that.
Well, he's...
remember, he did score a hat-trick at...
No, he's playing a different game now. Hang on.
Was it Real Madrid in the Champions League?
No, that was years ago, and that was wonderful. What he's done is he's given him these free rolls. He doesn't start off normally in the middle, but he gives him a free roll. He used to stay on the wing. Now, if he doesn't get the ball, he's coming inside, he's moving around. He's much more mobile than what he was a couple of years ago. And it must be the manager who's telling him...
And playing with a lot more confidence as well.
Yes, and also the team's playing with confidence. You know, I know we're struggling and winning games by the odd goal, but we are winning these games. And we would have lost this game a couple of years ago under Harry Redknapp. We would have lost this game for sure.
Well, we had...
But I mean, of those top four spots, obviously, Man United are champions.
That's done.
You know, that's done and dusted.
And City
as runners-up. But for those other two remaining Champions League spots, the competition between the three London clubs, I think it's going to go to the wire.
Well, don't disregard Everton. If Everton come to White Hart Lane on Sunday, if they beat us, that changes the complexion of that as well. There's loads of ifs and buts. Arsenal have got the easier running without question. They've got Manchester United's their only hard game. The rest, they can win everything. I mean, their fixtures, really, they've really got a tremendous running. But having said that, they are playing teams at the bottom, like QPR, Wigan, Newcastle. These are hard games. You know, there's no easy game in the Premier. We said this.
Yeah, but by the time they play QPR, I think that's their second or third from last game.
Yeah.
QPR could be already down and out, and there'd be no incentive.
They could be. Wigan could be clear. That, you know, all these things can change every week. That's why it's so exciting going into these last games.
Southampton downed Chelsea by 2-1. Two cracking goals there. So you've got to give some credit to Southampton. They're playing some extremely good football.
Very good football.
I mean, Southampton are now 12th in the table. Who would have thought that with all the problems that they had not too long ago? Rafa Benitez choosing to rest several players, but that obviously... That decision, as we've seen this afternoon, turned out to be the right one.
Well, if we just talk about Southampton, I was chatting to a Southampton fan yesterday, and he made a really interesting point. He said, you know, a lot of Southampton fans were surprised, you know, when they got rid of Adkins. He said, but, you know, if you look at the difference in the style of management, he said that, you know, when Chelsea made their various substitutions, you know, Pochettino put on the reserve left back, you know, to give Luke Shaw extra cover to counter the threat of the Chelsea subs. And he said if that had been Adkins, you know, he would have put on another striker.
Okay.
Guys, we've got a caller on the line. Good evening. You're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Good afternoon, Steve from Torremolinos.
Hi, Steve.
Stu, I'm a bit disappointed in you, mate. You should be more confident that you should finish in the top four this year.
I should be, but I watch Tottenham every week, and I assure you, it is it's painful. It's no pleasure watching Spurs at the moment. It's when we're winning and we're clear, but these odd goal wins is not doing my heart any good.
Sorry, but the only reason why I called is because at the moment now, with in and out Chelsea and a despondent Torres at the moment, I don't see why you should be worried. I think you should just creep into fourth place, if not third, finish third.
Well, I hope you're right. But and I think we will finish in the top four. I really, really do. But it's a long way to go. These games now are all tricky games. And coming off Spurs for the minute, I thought Liverpool had a really good win yesterday against Villa, coming back from one down.
Well, we won't talk about that too much because we had our conversation about it last week.
Steve, who's your top four then?
At the moment now, I think with Chelsea winning today, I would say that they're going to concentrate too much on the cup. It's my understanding now that Suarez is going to leave. The understanding is that he's going to go to Atletico.
Yeah, but who's your top four? Who's at the end of the season? Who's going to be the top four in the Premier League?
Okay, I go in this order. I think Man United obviously first, Man City second.
Yeah.
I've got a sneaking feeling that actually Tottenham might cling into third and Arsenal finish fourth. I think that Chelsea won't make it.
I'll take it. I'll take that now.
I agree with you, Steve.
I'll take that now.
And
Thank you very much.
the Europa League place fifth.
Well, at the moment now, I think that Chelsea, it's going to be. I think Everton might get it because if Chelsea creep in.
You don't think you can put a late surge in and get that fifth place?
No, because at the moment now we've got to play Everton, which is a big talk over the weekend because I don't stand from Anfield, and we're expecting twice to go, so we don't think we're going to make it into Europe. But the gap's too big. They've got a game in hand and they've got points on it.
Only 5 points.
No, yeah, well, at the moment now, Everton's got another game to play, and I listened to our manager the other day, and this, I can't disagree that there is some improvement, but we're too unreliable. We lost points against Southampton and also West Brom. Points we should have. It's understandable to be losing against Southampton. I can understand that, but the West Brom was too painful.
Steve, the last games you got, you're playing 5 teams near the bottom. It's not exactly a hard running, apart from Chelsea and Everton.
No. I don't know, man. I understand listening to you, mate, very carefully. On the one moment you say you are playing teams down the bottom, so it's going to be hard, and then for us it's easy. We're not real hard at all, so sorry, I don't agree.
Okay, that's very common.
And I know when I listen to the rest of the show, it's very entertaining, as per always.
Thank you.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks for your call, mate.
But Dom, I mean, you know, with Benitez, you know, obviously prioritising the FA Cup over the league, you know, the financial consequences for Chelsea, you know, are going to be absolutely astronomical. You know, I mean, I know it will enhance.
Is he actually doing that?
Well, surely the chairman.
I mean,
well, I think you've got to look at the team. I mean, we were talking about, you know, to take nothing away from that fantastic Southampton performance on Saturday. You know, you've only got to look at the team he put out on Saturday compared to the team he played today in the FA Cup, and also the way the team played.
But he did make that decision while Chelsea was still in a Champions League spot. It's not as though they were 5 points or 6 points behind trying to catch up. Chelsea are still currently fourth, and he made that decision with today's game in mind, a semi-final spot against Manchester United of all teams as well. So he did actually make that decision, you know, not looking to chase it.
You don't want to lose ground, Dominic. I mean, you know, look at.
Well, he hasn't lost ground, has he?
Well, he did because, you know, Tottenham won, Arsenal won, so therefore he lost ground on that position.
But they
gained ground.
I mean, he had to take a risk, didn't he? I mean, it's he had to take a risk.
Well, maybe he took a risk, but it also indicates where his priorities lie.
Can I tell you something?
And I'd be interested to hear from Chelsea fans as to what they think of that.
You know what would have happened to him had he have chosen his full-strength team on the weekend, beaten Southampton, and then chosen the second string again for Monday's game against Manchester United and lost. He would have got slated, wouldn't he? So you know
he's going to get slated anyway. But I mean, if there are any Chelsea fans out there, I'd really like to know what they think is more important.
Gentlemen, I want to ask you.
And also remember, he's up against a very good Man City team who've got nothing else to play for. And, you know, Chelsea have also got to suffer an extremely congested fixture list.
I just want to ask you, in what order would you put it? I mean, they've got Rubin Kazan on Thursday as well, a major game. Would you say, what's more important, the FA Cup, the Europa, the League? In what order would you put those?
And then they've got Man United next Monday.
Well, that's the cup.
Well, they've got Rubin Kazan.
The league is, isn't it?
But the Europa Cup must be better to win than the FA Cup, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think
if you're an English manager, the FA Cup is. If you're a foreign manager, then it's the Europa League, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the champion, to finish in the top 4 place in the league is five.
That's number one.
It should be absolutely.
Then out the other two, then do you think he'd rather win a championship, the Europa, because it's all the clubs from all over Europe, rather than the FA?
Yeah, because I think it would raise his profile in Europe, and remember he's going to be looking for a new job at the end of the season.
Yeah,
okay.
Good. I mean, I don't think it gets any fairer than that. At that point, I mean, I think Rafa Benitez is very much thinking of. Anyway, we've got a caller on the line. It might very well be a Chelsea fan. Let's see if we can bring you in there. Good evening. You're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Hello, Dom. Good evening. It's Bernie.
Bernie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yourself?
Not too bad, thanks, Bernie.
Good. Well, I think, first of all, no one's mentioned that Chelsea have got a game in hand over Tottenham.
Oh, there you go, guys.
Good point.
You've got to win it first, Bernie.
Yeah, you've got to win it, but you've got to play Tottenham, so that's 6 points.
No. I see it, Bernie, I see it totally the other way. I think once we dismiss you at Stamford Bridge, we're on our way.
You won't, though. That's the whole point. You're going to get stuffed there with no question.
Bernie, let me correct you. We're not.
And then on top of that, we're going to beat you in the Europa League final.
No. We get to the final, we're unbeatable. We always win finals, Spurs.
Once we beat Manchester City and beat Millwall in the Cup final, then Benitez will go to his new post at Real Madrid with a bit of success behind him.
Well, maybe if he wins all those things, Bernie, Abramovich will decide to keep him.
I hope not.
Bernie,
as a Chelsea fan, what are your priorities for the season? You're still in, you obviously the Championship, is out of your reach.
Well, if you look, when you said about the team he picked on Saturday, that team was still a very good team, and it should have done a lot better against Southampton. It wasn't a poor second-rate team. They have a lot of extra players. The squad is very small, and I don't think that he was picking a weak team. They just didn't perform very well.
But Marin played, Moses played. These are second-team players.
But only one, Marin. You look at the rest of the team that played. Look at the defence. It was Cole didn't play, but you had Ivanovic, you had Aspilicueta, you had Terry. They're all, it was still a good team. And
but Terry's not. Hang on, Terry's not a first-team player now.
Of course, he's still a first team. Who scored the goal? Who scored the goal the last time he played before that?
He's trying to get under your skin. He's trying to get under your skin.
Can I just ask you again? What's if you was put the three things that's in a list in a sort of list of 1 to 3? What's the most important?
Richard, the important thing is about the next manager.
No, but in terms of the three things,
if the next manager is going to
Cup,
be Mourinho or whoever, if he picks a guy that's at the top level, they are going to want to be in the Champions League. So therefore, the Champions League has to be the priority.
Right.
No question. The Mickey Mouse in Europe, that's a waste of time. Nobody really wants to get involved with that.
Except Tottenham Hotspur.
Got knocked out the first round, but there you go. FA Cup is always important for the fans because of the historical connections. It's just a major, exciting competition. So that's important as well. But the one on Thursday coming up, I don't think is very important.
Okay, so why did he play a weaker team then? Because
he did. That's what I'm saying to you. It wasn't that much of a weaker team.
Part of the
but when you don't, for a start, you played Torres instead of Barr.
Well, Barr, excuse me, he had to play Barr today, and he can't play Barr on Thursday. So Torres has to play on Thursday because Barr's cup tie. So you can't play the same guy all the time. The problem with Saturday was that Mata had a virus, and he couldn't play. Now, Chelsea and Tottenham have got the same problem. They're both, at the moment, basically one-man teams. No Mata, no Chelsea at the front. Bale, well, that goes without saying. There's no Tottenham.
He was fantastic today, wasn't he, Mata?
Well, I didn't see it because I don't have a TV, Dom, and the radio, I couldn't pick it up.
Oh,
so
have a look at
every hour and then
Bernie,
to see what the score was.
Bernie, have a look at the highlights because Demba Ba's goal was probably the goal of the season.
Yeah, he doesn't have a television.
They said it was a fantastic...
No, Bale's
it was a very good goal, and Chelsea deserved their win. They were a much better team.
Well, they said the other thing was the save almost immediately afterwards from Hernandez by Cech.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely.
What a save.
I mean, what a great cross. What a fantastic header. But the save was unbelievable.
Just incredible.
Point-blank range at tremendous pace as well. A marvellous save.
Bernie, you're from London?
Yeah, well, I come from Chelsea.
Chelsea. Do you know where Hackney Marsh is?
No, I've never been there, luckily enough.
I used to perform regularly in goal in my youth. You'd see me. I pulled off saves like that every week.
Those were the days of black and white.
I've been first east in the City of London a couple of times, but that's about it in my life. In my 62 years. No, but joking apart, I think Chelsea will struggle against Manchester City because they cannot play Tevez. He scores against them virtually every game bar one.
He's on fire.
So they're going to have to struggle there. And as Richard said, Manchester City have got nothing else to play for, and they've got to try and win something. On top of the fact, you'll probably find that Chelsea have got to be in Siberia on the Thursday, and then back to play on the Sunday at Wembley, so they're going to be completely knackered.
I hope you're knackered when we play you. Do you know your last games are hard? You've got Liverpool away, Swansea home, Manchester United away, Aston Villa away.
I know it's the worst running.
And our fixture, I think our fixture with you has been put back to that week before the last game against Everton at home. I think we're playing in that slot on the Tuesday or Wednesday night.
I didn't know when it was. I guessed it'd be a midweek game.
I think it's
semi-final day. Yeah, that's right.
So you should be knackered then. So I think, listen, the good thing is that after we beat you on that day, you don't have to worry about the. You won't have to worry about the Everton game.
I tell you, Arsenal will be third, and you have to be battling. They've got such a an easy run in. There's
Absolutely.
no competition.
Bernie, if
Yes,
you don't get that fifth place, do you think that might jeopardise the appointment of Mourinho?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that is. Well, it's. I say absolutely, and then I suddenly think about it, and I think, guy's got such an ego. He said, "I'm back to save you all," and next season we will not only qualify for the Champions, we'll win the league. You know what he's like.
Yeah.
And, you know, the old ego has landed back on the Sun headlines again, and we're off to the races. But remains to be seen. If they don't qualify for the Champions League, it's going to be a very close call.
Well, you know, Jose Mourinho was at Stamford Bridge for the friendly between, was it Russia and Brazil, I think it was?
Russia and Brazil, that's right,
and
yeah.
he had an interview with, I think, Sky or BBC or something after the match, or before the match, whatever it was, and he did actually come out and say that, you know, Chelsea remains a special place in his heart.
That's right,
and literally
yeah.
suggesting that he really wants to come back and...
Well, I suppose that Ferrari that he was given by Abramovich is parked around there somewhere, I guess, and he's got a place in London. I wasn't at all surprised if Capello was having an interview at the same time.
Well, I tell you what, he hasn't done a bad job. He didn't do a bad job with England, in my view, and he's doing a pretty good job with Russia at the moment.
Well, if Mourinho doesn't go back, I would want Capello there to try and sort the defence out.
All right. Well, listen, gentlemen,
Yeah.
Bernie, thanks. It's always a pleasure
All the
to hear
best,
from
guys.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Bye,
much.
Bernie.
Guys, we have to go to a commercial break.
Yeah,
We haven't
speak
been
to you
through
soon.
one.
All the best.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Bernie. Take
TRE, the Monday Night Sports Bar with Dom Oldworth.
Well, welcome back to the last part of the show. Great chat there. Thanks for all your calls earlier there, Bernie and company. Bit of tennis news to bring you. Some great tennis on the weekend. Serena Williams captured her 6th Miami title. That's a new record-breaking. Steffi Graf, she was equal there on 5. Tremendous victory for Serena Williams. She really has been on fire since last year's Wimbledon. Defeating Maria Sharapova, a 6-times loser in Miami. Unfortunately for the Russian, coming in off the back of an Indian Wells victory as well, Sharapova. So in some pretty good form, but Williams coming on top there, 4-6, 6-3, 6-love in some very hot conditions there. A 48th career title for Serena Williams. She is slowly marching on to be one of the all-time greats. Unfortunately, as mentioned, Sharapova losing to Kim Clijsters in 2005, Kuznetsova in 06, Azarenka in 2011, and Agnieszka Radwanska last year, and Serena Williams this year. So tremendous result there for Serena Williams, but what a marvellous result for Andy Murray against David Ferrer in the final there. Andy Murray winning in 2009 this particular tournament in Miami, the Sony Open. Amazing. I know you watched it there, Stu, but David Ferrer storming to a first set win 2-6. Andy Murray getting back into it 6-4 and winning an incredible third set. I think they broke serve on 5 occasions in the beginning. Andy Murray eventually winning 7-6, 7-1 in the tiebreak. Very, very hot and humid conditions there. You could actually see there physically they were and mentally just drained come the end of the match.
They were totally drained. I was drained just watching it. I've never seen anything like it. Why did they start at 11:30 in the Florida heat? It didn't make sense. Was it for TV or what?
I would have thought it's for television. I mean, this is a Masters Series 1,000 event, so... you're talking pretty much after your 4 Grand Slams. These are the next profile-wise the biggest tournaments that these players can play. And of course, they've got an audience which is reaching all the way out to China, Australia, and those sort of countries. And I think that's probably the reason why they chose to play it at that time, which seems a bit bizarre to me.
The humidity at that time of day in Florida is in excess.
But brilliant stuff by Andy Murray.
Fabulous.
He came through.
Well,
he faced a match
any time of day. I mean,
Yeah, but
you need to really play it at night, don't you?
These two guys were out on their legs. They were just
completely,
out.
and
They could have gone either way.
Two of the fittest guys on the tour as well. Even David Ferrer, 31 years old, he's got tremendous level of fitness. We know Andy Murray, alongside Djokovic, probably is the fittest guy. But it was a 26th career title for Andy Murray. The good news for him now is that he climbs up to number 2 in the world rankings. David Ferrer, as a result of losing finalist, climbs above Rafael Nadal into number 4. That's his highest ranking he's ever achieved. So tremendous stuff there from Andy Murray. This partnership, which began with Ivan Lendl, a 7-times Grand Slam winner in January, I think, of last year, is certainly reaping its rewards. It's certainly dividends there for Andy Murray.
It's up to number 2 now, isn't it?
Up to number 2 in the world, yeah. Fantastic. Tremendous stuff.
Fantastic.
So next up there for Andy Murray is the clay court season. That is the Monte Carlo Masters in about 2 to 3 weeks' time. That is the surface that he plays, and certainly not his best tennis on. But if he wants to hold on to that number 2 ranking, he's going to have to do some performing there. A bit of rugby nuts news to give you as well over the weekend. Aviva Premiership, tremendous there for Sale Sharks against London Irish, drawing 33-all. There were wins for the Exeter Chiefs, Leicester Tigers over Northampton Saints in the derby. Bath coming out on top against London Welsh by 40 points to 25. Another victory for the Saracens, 22-13 over London Wasps. And Gloucester edging Harlequins, 17-15. Harlequins are on a bit of a slide at the moment, Rich. Turn the clock back just before the Six Nations. They were comfortably top of the table. They're now sitting in third place on 56, 11 points behind Saracens, and a further 6 points behind the Leicester Tigers. Not good stuff for Harlequins at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the game last week when they played Sarries, and a lot of their England players just seemed just really bereft of any energy, and poor old Chris Robshaw, looks as though he's played, one game too many so far this season.
Not good news with the Lions tour coming up.
Well, I think they'll be all right, but there's a few of them that looked as though they needed a break from rugby,
Not too dissimilar in the Rabo Direct Pro 12, Rich. I mean, I remember sort of shortly around about Christmas time, the Ospreys were running away with it. They were massive 10 points clear. The whole setup of that league has now changed. Glasgow Warriors are top of the table on 67. Ulster 66. Leinster, who looked dead and buried at one stage, at third and 64. Ospreys on 58. And it's a tremendous result for Ulster on the weekend, defeating Leinster 22-18. There were also wins for Ospreys, the Scarlets. The Glasgow Warriors surprise table toppers at the moment over Munster, 51 points to 24, and a victory there for Edinburgh over Zeb, 9 points to 7. So Glasgow top of the table there. I was going to talk a little bit more rugby, but we don't have...
Just staying with rugby, and you mentioned the London Welsh defeat to Bath, and of course they lost their appeal. I don't know whether any of the listeners are aware of that, but they had fielded an ineligible player due to a registration error, and they got deducted 7 points, I think it was.
Shame, and obviously this is their first appearance.
And
in
of
the
course,
Aviva
and they had and they had to even get into the Aviva Premiership, it had to go to a legal appeal because the ground was not considered of a requisite quality, even though they had made various sort of written intentions that they were going to improve the ground, if they did get in there. And it's, I think it's really, really unlucky for London Welsh.
And they put in some really battling performances as well this season, and played some good rugby at times.
Really
as well.
Unlucky. I think it was last week, and they were playing, I think it was Gloucester, and they just got pipped. I think at the very last, I think 14-13 or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Down south, Rich, and the reason why I'm just focus my attention very quickly on this, Super 15 rugby is currently taking place. That's a top 5 from Australia, New Zealand and South Africa into week 7, and the Brumbies are currently top of the table there. That's an Australian side. The Chiefs in second, the Sharks from Durban in third, the Reds in fourth, Queensland Reds, and the Waratahs are in 8th. Now, the reason why I've singled out the Waratahs, the Reds and the Brumbies, that is where the makeup of the Australian Wallaby rugby team will be made of, or certainly the squad will come from for the British Lions. And the word on the ground there is that Radiki Sama is playing excellent rugby. Will Genia, who probably is one of the best scrum halves in the world, is back to good form. Quade Cooper has been showing some fantastic form for the Reds. I saw a game a couple of weeks ago. He seems to have recovered from his knee injury. Digby Ione, James O'Connor playing some good stuff for the Rebels, and Kurtley Beale. We spoke about Kurtley Beale at great length at times. The wonderful playmaker that comes in from 15. He slots in quite well at number 10. Those are the danger men, and they're all in the top of their form, and they're all injury-free, but David Pocock won't be featuring. He's out until... Kurtley Beale, are you sure about that?
Kurtley Beale has withdrawn from all competition whilst he receives psychiatric counselling.
When did you read that? I haven't heard about that.
That was in the papers last week.
Was it? Okay, I completely missed that one.
Yeah.
What does he need psychiatric counselling
for? Attacking teammates.
Well, I remember that happening, but I didn't realise he'd actually withdrawn from all competition. He had a fight on the training pitch, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's had a lot of problems with alcohol abuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he'll be available for the Lions tour. I'm sure we can.
Well,
get his
I can tell you, the Australians are very, very pessimistic, and the attendance levels at rugby union games in Australia are very poor at the moment, and there's far more interest in rugby league, and so for example, I mean the Bulldogs versus the Seahawks, will get a crowd of 100,000, whereas the Brumbies. lucky if they get 20,000.
I'll tell you, that's a big loss, because I saw him a couple of weeks ago and he was absolutely brilliant. We're running out of time, guys.
He might be back, Dominic, because I think he's too important. I mean, this Australia team I think they're going to suffer against the Lions.
They're going to need all the experience and all their game players that they can get. Gentlemen, should we move on for the last several minutes? Champions League football. Wow, this is fantastic stuff. Malaga, we said a couple of weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, it was the biggest game in their history. This coming Wednesday is against Borussia Dortmund at La Rosaleda Stadium. Bayern Munich, Juventus, PSG, Barcelona on Tuesday. Real Madrid, Galatasaray, Malaga versus Dortmund. Let's talk about those guys.
Before, can I just get Europa out the way so then we can just talk about the Champions League? Spurs are playing Bâle on Thursday. Chelsea play Rubin Kazan. Fenerbahce play Lazio, and Benfica play Newcastle. What's interesting is that in the Europa, there's only one team that's leading their National League, and that's Benfica, whereas in the Champions League you've got 5 teams leading their league, so it shows you the strength of the European, the major competition. Paris Saint-Germain with Barcelona should be a cracking game. I think with Ibrahimovic up front and the way they play Paris, I think they give Barcelona a decent game. But
Paris Saint-Germain unbeaten for 6 years at home in Europe.
You can't underestimate Barcelona, though, but I think it's going to be a very, very close game.
I think that when PSG's name came out of the hat, Barcelona thought they'd won the lottery.
But do you think it's going to be that easy for them?
Yeah, I think it'll be it's the easiest tip. Well, unless it was Malaga, of course. I think they'd, Malaga, PSG, probably the 2 weakest teams in the tournament, along with maybe Galatasaray.
Well, I think that'll be a good game, but they're all good games. Bayern Munich and Juventus, a cracking game there.
That is the tie of the round, to be honest. Bayern
are just on fire at the moment. We were just saying they won 9-2 against Hamburg over the weekend. They had several reserves in. They didn't play their full team, and they've got so many great players in their team. But Juventus, an Italian team, Pirlo leading them. It's also going to be a very, very technically an interesting game to watch.
And Buffon, the best goalkeeper in the world. Buffon is just absolutely...
Well, they're talking about billing this game as one of the best attacks in the world against one of the best defences. And as you mentioned, Buffon there in the goal, fantastic quality, isn't he?
Well, you've got Pirlo out in midfield at Juventus. He runs everything for Juventus. So, it's going to be quite a battle. And I think if Juventus can come away with it just with a goal deficit, I think they may have a chance. But I think Bayern are too strong.
Well, Juventus have won all 5 European quarter-finals against German opponents and are unbeaten in 18 games in the UEFA club competition so far.
I think this is the sort of team that Bayern would hate to play, to be honest.
Well, look at what Arsenal did recently.
Yeah, but there isn't... Yes, OK. That was a great win 2-0. To go there and win 2-0 was something else. But I think this Bayern...
And Juventus has got a far better defence than Arsenal.
They'll just soak up all that pressure and hit them on the
well, that's
counter.
the way they play. All the Italian teams away from home.
Yeah.
That is how they play.
That's how they play at home as well.
But I think Bayern have got too much strength. I really do. If Ribéry is on form and Muller, I think they can, if they get an early goal, I think they can get 2 or 3. I really do.
Well, in 2009-10, Juventus went to Bayern, goalless draw there, but then Bayern returned the favour with a 4-1 thrashing in Turin. But this is a different Juventus side now to what it was back then.
Absolutely, and this Bayern team's run away with the German league. It's just been a nonsense. They leave at 20 points. It's ridiculous in the Bundesliga to see that. So I think this is a special Bayern team. I really do.
Malaga Dortmund, guys, we've got to talk about that. That's our local side. Massive, massive game. Good victory for Malaga, by the way, on the weekend. 3-1. Just what they needed before this big game. But the reality is, do they have a chance against the side, Borussia Dortmund, which are performing very, very well in the Bundesliga at the moment?
Every team has a chance at this stage. The only thing is, I saw Borussia Dortmund take Manchester City apart in the early qualifying stages when they got knocked out. This Malaga team has really got to be up for it. And they've got to get something out this first leg.
They took Real Madrid apart twice.
Oh, they're a tremendous team. Yeah, I was looking through the players. I'm not familiar with a lot of their players, but having said that, they're second in the Bundesliga, and Malaga are a really hard game. But wishing them the best of luck. If they can just get a draw out of it, not concede a goal. 0-0 would be an excellent result.
Well, I think they should look at Schalke had a very good result against Borussia a few weeks ago, and I was reading the Schalke coach and his comments after the game, and he said that the way to beat Borussia is down the flanks, and their fullbacks are probably the weakest link in the team.
Yes,
the 2 centre-halves are very good.
But down the flanks, they've got Joaquin, who's the only player for Malaga who's got any pace, and he's an old guy. He's over 30. I say old, it's terrible, I shouldn't say that, but he's one of the older guys. I think if Isco can perform to the best of what he's been playing this year, they'll have a chance. And as I say, it's up front that I worry. Batista, Santa Cruz and Saviola, that's the only players they've got as centre-forwards, and they're all past their sell-by dates. And I just wonder wonder whether they can do something against
Experience?
Dortmund. They have experience, but I think you need pace. You need a lot more to win these games. You know, you're at the stage of the quarter-final, the biggest trophy in the world. I think it needs more than experience.
I mean, Malaga need a fluke to win, to be honest. I mean, I'd love them, to